I'm a pretty big fan of Arkane Studios. Phil was kind enough to actually buy me the Arkane Studios 30 years celebratory flask, which I don't think a lot of people own. So when I say I'm a fan of Arkane Studios, I'm not lying. What I did want to talk about today was Deathloop, and this is the latest and greatest from Arkane. Definitely follows in the footsteps of games like Dishonored and Prey, where you are put in this somewhat closed but very, very detailed world in which you can freely walk around and see cause and effect and understand lots of really cool mysteries and enjoy some pretty incredible gameplay. All while being told a phenomenal story, by the way. Deathloop definitely did not disappoint on any of those fronts. I was pleasantly surprised with the way that the story progressed. I will admit, though, there were times that I was a little frustrated because it felt like sometimes, even though knowledge is the weapon, your progression felt limited in a sense. There are four distinct areas to visit, and you can visit almost all of them four distinct times each day. So there's a couple areas that are unavailable during certain times of the day. I don't have an exact count, so let's just say there's 13 unique areas that you can explore when you take the combination of the location and the time of day. And what happens is each of those areas is different. An area might start off nice and pretty, and then as the day goes on, a building fire destroys a part of the town, or people loot a part of the town, and things change. Mysteries have to be solved in a very distinct order because there are times areas are entirely inaccessible. You will pick up clues and notes and fragments and piece things together. And for the first, I would say, probably 15 hours of this game, all I did was walk around. I pretty much bypassed the main story, which absolutely holds your hand. Like to the point of like Skyrim holding your hand, like click this button right here kind of thing. I ignored all that at the beginning and I just went off on my own, and I was starting to make connections on certain buildings being open at specific times of the day or night. And I really enjoyed that part of exploration. It was one of the things I enjoyed most thoroughly about Dishonored 1 and Dishonored 2 in particular, was that there was a lot of puzzles that were not spelled out at all. You had to find a safe code, for example, to break into a safe to get the treasure inside. And the combination was maybe written on a piece of paper under somebody's bed, or it was scribbled on a wall somewhere. Not a quest marker, not something that said, hey, here is the code. It was just something in the universe. You had to really take your time and just explore your surroundings, very detailed. Look at all the walls, look at all the floors, really kind of be a detective in each individual room to uncover things. And I like that a lot. With Dishonored, I felt like there was more progression in that sense. There was much more cause and effect. Deathloop, you're building up to something, and sometimes you find clues that just lead you to a treasure room ultimately, which, hey, is great. Everyone likes treasure, some sort of item or weapon that maybe makes your next playthrough a little bit easier. And while it does a lot of times feed into some of the lore of the world, not all the lore is exciting as some of the other lore. There's a lot going on in the universe of Deathloop. Not only are you trying to figure out what you're doing there, you have this crazy woman who's trying to kill you, and then you have all these other people. And all of them have very fleshed out backstories that can be uncovered through recordings and notes. And a lot of times those mystery rooms ultimately lead into something like that, which, not to take away from the overall impact of the game, but at times did not feel as impactful, at least to me, particularly in Dishonored. I thought Dishonored really did it well. I thought Prey did it okay, and I feel like Deathloop is kind of in that same realm of like they did it okay. So I feel sometimes as you're running through the same areas over and over and over again, looking to try to find something different to kind of progress the free exploration of the game, your progress is going to be somewhat limited because there are some definite abstract clues that without a guide, I would not have been able to solve. No doubt about it. There's a lot of secrets that I didn't find out about until after I beat the game and went on YouTube and watched reviews and saw like, oh, I didn't know that or whatever. But the main core of the story, understanding who you are, why you're there, what you're doing, that I absolutely understood. And the game does an incredible job of explaining that. Maybe I feel like they gave part of the big mystery away a little too early. I'm not going to reveal what that mystery is, but I was kind of surprised that they let the cat out of the bag so early on one particular thing. And then they kind of dropped it until the end of the game, and then it made a little bit more sense. For me, I ultimately did like this game. I was really a big fan of it, and I'm happy that I got the opportunity to really play it without being spoiled. But that said, if you are somebody who likes your handheld, well, good news, this game is going to do that for you. And maybe it was almost too complex. I often refer to as the greatest video game level design ever as the Clockwork Tower from Dishonored. It's a world within a world where the level is constantly shifting, and depending on how you manipulate your character, as the world is shifting around itself, you can do some really cool things. You can not break the game, like get outside the boundaries, although I'm sure that's possible, but you can really bypass significant parts of the level, and some of the mystery in how to progress is really determined by how you do that. And I think Deathloop takes a lot of those great features and puts them here. As you learn that knowledge of doing the same things over and over again, you get smarter at it, more effective at it. Killing people can be as simple as walking into a room and pulling out your favorite weapon and mowing everybody down, and using your powers and killing multiple enemies at once, or teleporting to another part of a map, or being a Superman. You can absolutely do that. As a matter of fact, the final heist and the final way I had to take out the remaining few visionaries went horribly wrong in my playthrough. I had everything laid out. I knew how to pick them apart in a very stealthy way. I did not do that. I screwed up, and it was a total gunfight at the end. It was a blast. That was just the way I beat it. But it was a major body count at the end for me. It wasn't anything of like any kind of grace or anything like that. So you will learn how to advance this world in a way that makes it easier for you. You'll find combinations to locks and doors that maybe will bypass a certain difficult portion of the level. There's obviously a lot of treasures and stuff to be found as well, but you do get smarter. So in that sense, knowledge is great, but also at a kind of a flip of that, if you're not super into the lore, which, I mean, you're playing an Arkane game, like that's kind of the thing. But if you're not really into that, you may find some of the ancillary exploration to be a little less rewarding than you would have found in some other games. But I'm digging it, and I mean I did dig it. I'm done with it. I don't think I'll go back and play it anymore. I disabled the Juliana invasions from when I was playing as Cole. I found them to be way too annoying. Nothing was more frustrating than taking my time and systematically exploring a level, having fun, checking all the notes and learning things and picking up new weapons and that sort of thing, and then having some tryhard come in and one-shot me because all they do all day is grief people. It was definitely not fun. I wish this option was actually disabled by default and you had to opt into it rather than opt out of it, because I was not really aware of that until later. And I was really frustrated. I lost a little over an hour of playing around in the first area because a enemy Juliana came in and I was unable to defeat them. So I think that while that's an interesting system, I think the purists in this game will prefer to turn that off. There is a lore narrative reason as to why Juliana is doing what she is doing. You will uncover that in the main game. But the satisfaction of being Juliana and ruining somebody else's online experience, especially people who are just walking around and exploring on their own, was really not fun. And I did try it just to see if I would enjoy it, and I didn't. Because I could clearly tell the person that I was griefing wasn't in the mood to be griefed, and I just jumped off the cliff and let them win because I was like, this is stupid, and I disabled it immediately, and I didn't look back. So your mileage may vary on that particular thing, but this is not a PvP type game. I wish they honestly just disabled that entirely. It's much more fun playing as Cole and uncovering the mystery and enjoying this rich, vibrant universe in which you can explore and learn new things. As far as terms of like the game wrapping up and the end, I think it did a phenomenal job of explaining a lot of the motivations of the characters. Clearly, there's more to uncover. If you're a purist, you can go back. There are numerous hidden bunkers and hidden notes and hidden secrets everywhere. Because of the way the game works in terms of visiting each of those locations at night and day, you have to be very thorough in what you check multiple times because doors and hallways and barricades will open and close as the day progresses. So you may think you've totally cleared something out until you come back later and realize you haven't. Or most likely, you'll have to do something earlier in the day, either on that location or somewhere else to directly impact a future location. That's really what the gist of the game is in terms of the single player story, is manipulating everything so that everything perfectly works out the way you want it to. However, it also works well in the treasure hunting thing. And I love that. That's there if you want it. It's also there if you don't want it. So you don't have to feel like you're going to be spending hours and hours trying to decipher codes and secrets and stuff. But it's there if you want it to be. And I did appreciate that duality of we'll hold your hand or we won't hold your hand. What Arkane would do after this game, it really does pique my curiosity. Again, I'm definitely, grounded in the Dishonored universe. I've played both of those games and all the DLCs. I can't tell you how many times. I'm an absolute super fan of it. But Arkane does something really, really cool here at the end, and there's a couple instances, not just the main one in the story, but there's another hidden one. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything. That does indicate to me that this Dishonored universe and this Deathloop universe are somehow interconnected. I would love to see that explored more. I would love to see if Arkane could somehow figure out how to tie all their games together. I think that's an interesting take on the game. And it just makes me love the lore and the universe even more to know that there are fragments of one of my favorite games ever in another one of my favorite games. Like, I just think that's so cool that they can pull this off. But I'll close out by saying this. If you haven't played an Arkane game before, if you have not played either of the Dishonored games, if you have not played Prey, and Deathloop is your first experience, I think you'll really enjoy it. And I think the reason why is because if you want all those handholds, they're there for you, and it will guide you through the game. But you will still be able to kind of, at least at a cursory view, be able to enjoy some of what Arkane does so well. If you want an extra challenge, don't use any of those. Figure it out on your own. That's a very undaunting. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do it on my own. I did need some help. But that's like for the purist. If you have played other Arkane games and you enjoy that style, this is that, but perfected even more. The combat is even more crisp than it was in Dishonored. The gunplay is even better than it was in Prey. There are a lot more pieces of lore scattered around the world everywhere. Conversations you'll overhear, little Easter eggs of dialogue, just picking things up, even guard patterns, like little things like that will become very clear the more you play. And it does feel rewarding, at least for me on the final loop, when I knew exactly what I needed to do in order to complete the game. It was very rewarding for me that I had put in, I want to say it was like 35 hours into this game to really just nail it, except for that last little shootout there at the end. But I knew where to go, I knew where to stand, I knew what weapons I needed, and I felt very empowered. And I think a game that can make you feel that way is great. You're going to play with Cole, you're not going to understand anything that's going on, but by the end of the game, not only will you understand the story completely, every weird thing you've seen, everything will be explained to you in full detail, and even more so if you take your time to go back and look through the lore. And that felt really, really good. That's what leaves a smile on my face as the end credits rolls. Like, you know what? I conquered this. I started off as a weak nobody, and by the end of the game, I had some very powerful weapons, very powerful abilities, and I was a very lethal player when I needed to be. So that is the best endorsement I can give this game. I loved it. I want more. I know Arkane takes a long time to make games. I'm willing to wait. I hope that this Xbox acquisition of Bethesda does not hurt the Arkane development style, because they are a very special studio. They make games unlike anybody else, and Deathloop, I think, is the culmination of what they have learned over the last few years working on some of these other games I mentioned previously. If you like Deathloop, I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. I'm going to go back and probably watch some more YouTube videos on some of the Easter eggs I missed, because there's a ton of them. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.